300 mark for the very first time ever.
You know this can be big.
And still higher again. Biggest number we've ever seen.
Whoa, look at that, Nathan Chen. 335.
When the score comes up and it says 127.48,
149.95.
I have no idea if I should be excited or not. I don't know what that means.
Figure skating scoring is complicated.
Figure skating scoring can be complicated if you just tune in to watch the event during the Olympic Games. But trust me, once we break it down for you, it will all make sense and you can enjoy the games like a pro. First of all, know that all the judges' score sheets for the ISU organized competitions are available online, and you just have to type ISU results followed by the event name such as Olympics 2022 to check the detailed scores if you are interested. Skaters will receive two sets of scores: the technical element scores and the presentation or program component scores. Let's talk about the program component scores first, because having followed figure skating as a hardcore fan for the past 10 years, I may rant a lot about the technical elements. So there are 5 program components, namely skating skills, transitions, performance, composition, and interpretation of the music. For each program components, judges reward points from 0.25 to 10 to the skaters. At first glance, this is entirely subjective and therefore controversial. However, there are certain guidelines judges have to follow before they throw in the perfect 10 for their favorite skaters. If the skater had one serious mistake, such as falls or interruption of the program, the maximum score can only be 9.75 for skating skills, transitions, composition, and 9.5 for performance and music interpretation. If the skater had more than one serious mistake, then the maximum score must be 0.5 points lower for each category. However, it seems some judges don't always follow these guidelines. Here is one prominent example pointed out by fans. In the US Nationals 2022, Nathan Chen, the men's champion, had 2 falls in his program. Based on the ISU guidelines, his skating skills, transitions, and compositions can only be 9.25 maximum. See what Judge 6 and 7 did? Also maximum 8.75 for performance and interpretation of music. Again, see what Judge 6, 7 and 9 did? Thank God this is a domestic competition. We definitely hope the international judges don't make these mistakes. Back to the topic. For each program component, you drop the highest and lowest scores. Take average and multiply that by a factor and you will have the PCS scores. For men's, the multiplying factor is 1 for short programs and 2 for long programs. So maximum PCS score for men is 50 for the short and 100 for long. For all other events such as women, pairs, and ice dance, the multiplying factor is 0.8 for short program and 1.6 for long program. So maximum PCS for them is 40 for the short and 80 for long. You may ask why? Because the presentation scores was designed to imitate the technical scores. Until some crazy strong skaters pushed that boundaries, and now there is a debate on whether ISU should raise the factor to 2 for women, just like men. Which brings us into the technical scores. Sorry, as I'm not so familiar with pairs and ice dance myself, I will focus on men's and women's technical elements. For the short program, they have to perform 7 technical elements strictly according to the rules. Namely 3 jumping passes, 3 spins, and 1 step sequence. For the long program, the number of technical elements is 12, including 7 jumping passes, 3 spins, 1 step sequence and 1 choreographic sequence. For each element, there is a base value. And then judges gives a grade of execution scores ranging from -5 to +5 for each element executed. Again, you may think that GOE is subjective, but there are some rules that judges have to follow. Take jumps for example. There are 6 bullet points as the GOE awarding guides, and judges should give out the GOE according to the number of bullet points hit in the criteria. If there are some mistakes in the technical elements, such as falls, wrong edge takeoff, long preparation, and different kind of mistakes set out in the guides, then -GOE should be given instead. Take note that some errors are not too obvious, and it's up to the referee and technical specialist to determine if they are executed correctly, such as the under rotation, downgrade of the jumps, wrong edge takeoff, etc. So these technical controllers have arguably higher power than the judges, as they can change the judges' scores. One controversy going into Beijing 2022 is that one of the Chinese judges previously suspended for bias judging had been listed as the technical controller this time for the men's event. We certainly hope it's not another scandal in the making. Same as program components. The highest and lowest GOE for each element will be dropped, averaging the remaining, and then that GOE becomes a percentage of the base value added to the technical element scores. For instance, A plus 5 GOE for triple axle with base value of 8 would have 50% of 8, that's 4 points GOE added to this jump. And if they execute the program in the second half, there will be 10% bonus added into the base value. That's another 0.8 added. So the skater should get 12.8 points on a perfectly executed triple axel in the second half of their program. Now let's talk about the base value of these technical elements and on the controversy behind. The base value is supposed to reflect the difficulty of each element executed.
Here's how it works in terms of difficulty. Say you have a graph. You have the x-axis, let's say, is number of rotations, or the type of a jump, whatever. All the jumps on the x-axis, all right? And on the vertical axis, you have, let's say, difficulty, or chances of landing, or whatever, however you want to feel. It's sort of in my opinion, it becomes like an exponential curve, but the instant you reach like quad axle, the system breaks. The system's broken. If you can do a quad axle, you win.
Yes, the base value of quad axle, or 4.5 rotations jump in the air, will be the biggest controversy going into these Olympic Games because the two-time and reigning Olympic champion, Yuzuru Hanyu, will be challenging it. Some articles had wrongly stated he's challenging it because it's highly rewarded, but no, it's simply rewarded 1 point above the quad lutz, the 4 revolutions jump. But it is arguably 10 times more difficult than that. You can see they set triple axel as 8.0, 2.1 points higher than triple lutz. Even for double axel, it's 1.1 point more than double lutz. But when it comes to the quad axel, it is a mere 1 point higher than quad lutz. 4.5 rotations jump had been said to be near the brink of human capacity, according to scientists and sportsmen across different disciplines. Roman is certainly not the only figure skater who has voiced out on how difficult quad axel is.
自身も過去に挑戦、その難しさをよく知るプロフィギュアスケーター村隆人は、
空中感覚がそこが今までの4回転とかトリプルアクセルとはまた全然別格に長く感じるし、きつく感じるんですよね。まずはその回転に負けないだけの体を作らなきゃいけないこと。
唯一この前向きに踏み切っていくのがアクセルジャンプなんですね。だから前向きに踏み切るんで、ジャンプって基本的に着氷後ろ向きで降りないといけないので、半回転多く回らないといけないっていうところがまず1個難しいポイントと、あとはね、前にこの回転をかけていくことの恐怖感ってすごいんですよ。この物体がね、こう迫ってくる恐怖感っていうか、それでね、4回転アクセルってなったら、ここをね、もうすごい回転かけないといけないの。
And the greatest gymnast of all time had also chipped in.
人間がやる技じゃないなっていうのはもう最初に見て思いました。
So what makes an axel jump so difficult? Beside the extra half rotations, there are so much more.
他のジャンプは全部最初から回転をかけてるんですよ。例えばトーループ、ここからこういう、こっち向きに後ろに行ってるとして、こういう体勢から入るじゃないですか。で、足引いてってる時にはもうこうやって回せるんですよ。で、この回転がこのまま繋がっていくんですよね。でもアクセルはそれができないのは前側なんですよ。アクセルだけ。で、アクセルって右足でも上に浮かなきゃいけないし、上半身でも上に浮かなきゃいけないし、左足はもちろん蹴らなきゃいけないし、それプラスアルファでどうやってひねるか。
得点がね、ものすごい高いかというと、実は今のルールではそんなことなくて、こちらをご覧ください。はい、各ジャンプのこれ得点なんですけども、4回転アクセル 12.50 点で、それよりも一つ、簡単でも難しい4回転ルッツに関しては 11.50 ということで、この2つの差1点なんですよね。
いやもう4回転アクセルも20点30点ぐらいでいいんじゃないかっていうぐらい、もう選手としては体感めちゃくちゃ難しいジャンプですし。
So you can see, base values designed for these technical elements are already subjected to a lot of controversy. Imagine this. It's like you run a half marathon of 21 kilometers. You will be awarded 5 points. Then you run the full marathon of 42 kilometers. You will be awarded extra 10 points. But then when you run another half marathon of 63 kilometers in a shorter time, you are given merely 1 point more. That's how the base value for quad axel feel like to us, the fans at least.
北京オリンピック終わった頃に僕の領域を超えられるなって感じがしました。
So, when you are watching figure skating next time, Know that this is so much more than ballet on ice as some may call it. This is one of the hardest sports in the world, and the skaters competing now are the world-class athletes pushing the human body limit. Stay tuned.